Hello, Anxiety Free Life, My Local Hypnosis, anyone on YouTube. Hello to all of you out there. This is my little friend here, Oscar, and he's sitting with me today. I've taken him to work with me. I'm just here, and we're going to be having a chat in a moment about why can't I sleep, and that's in relation to anxiety and depression. Now, I just want to share with you a quick story about a conversation I had this morning with a lady who I was speaking to on the phone, and she'd had anxiety, had depression and all that kind of stuff. And she was actually struggling because she hadn't slept in 3 weeks. And she said, look, half my problem is actually the insomnia. I cannot function. And she had, her youngest child was 13. So being able to get up and, get his clothes washed, get him to school, function through the day, it makes it really, really hard. And, being able to sleep makes life and a lot more manageable and a lot more enjoyable. So it's a really, really important topic. We had some votes on it. So that's the one that I've chosen today. And I'm going to just start by saying that the sheer fact that we can't sleep, because sleep, we talk about sleep hygiene and circadian rhythms and, the wake to sleep cycle. But the fact when we can't sleep, we actually can become even more anxious. So you can have anxiety about worrying whether or not you're going to be able to sleep, especially when you're dealing with the exhaustion. Now, if you're jumping on live, just shout me a hello. If you make a comment, just put your name underneath so I can see who you are, because I'm actually using a streaming app and I won't be able to see names unless you've registered with the app. So, worrying about not sleeping. I know I've done it, and I think we all have this at some point in our life, whether we have anxiety or we don't have anxiety. There's always periods of our life where there's stress. And when we're stressed, we typically will go to bed at night, especially if there's something coming up like the next day or so. Hey, Sheena. We get that feeling like, the next day, and you start to live it in your mind. You start to run through the whole thing, being able to, worry about the next day, and it keeps you awake. Then there's the actual sense that I'm laying in bed, my body's calm, I'm relaxed, but my brain won't switch off. And this is a huge thing, because it's like there's nothing happening. I know I'm tired because it's nighttime and I haven't slept in, sometimes a long time, and I can't get myself to just switch off and go to sleep. And then we do all that stuff, count backwards from 100, try doing breathing. And like, I don't know what you're like, but I get tempted by my phone. Like, I'll pick it up and I'll start playing games, and I think, maybe I'm just not tired enough. Now, the blue light in our phone's not good, because it's actually a stimulant, and it prevents the melatonin from, triggering that sleep. But that's not all it's about when you've got anxiety. So the other thing that we can get is negative thoughts that are swimming around in our head, just like that mind chatter where it just doesn't stop. And I've got some tips and tricks at the end, but we'll go through all the stuff first around what is people are telling me, because I'm having conversations with people with anxiety all the time. And people tell me things about their anxiety. So not every single person's the same. Some people, they feel like they can't sleep at all. They're just wired, can't shut down, can't switch off. Even when their body's relaxed, their mind won't switch off. Other people, it's like intrusive negative thoughts coming into their mind, the worry, the sick feeling in your stomach. And then other people, it's like, I'm worrying about not sleeping. So there's a whole stack of stuff going on there, but let's talk about a bit of the science behind it, because a lack of sleep can really affect your health. Like, it can actually cause you to put on weight, which is very negative, and especially in our 40s. When you're younger, and I know I've experienced this, you can skip a bit of sleep, you still keep going, chew down a hamburger, still keep going. Get to your 40s and you stop sleeping, and then stuff just starts to happen. So it slows down your metabolism. It can affect your energy, and I'll talk a bit about why, your appetite, and it can cause your blood sugar levels to change and cause cravings as well. So with cortisol, the stress hormone, you have your adrenaline and your cortisol, and there's big technical names for them, but let's just keep it simple. So cortisol runs in a cycle. So it actually, you start producing it. So if I was a calm person, didn't have anxiety, no depression, anything, I'd start producing cortisol at midnight, and then towards the dawn time, that then starts to get a surge, and that's the surge of cortisol that helps you feel refreshed in the morning. And your body temperature changes by about 1 degree, and you actually feel like, I want to get out of bed in the morning. Then that slowly reduces through the day, and then eventually from about when you go to sleep, the first 2 or 3 hours, it just does not, there's no cortisol really happening there, and that allows you to get that sleep. That's why one of the reasons, I guess, why they talk about the hours of sleep before midnight that are worth double, like it's worth 1 hour before midnight's worth 2 later or another time. So there's the cortisol awakening response that helps you get up in the morning. That's that surge, and then the decline, and then the sleep part. And so if you're a normally regulated person, this is going to happen cyclically, daily, and you're going to feel like you're tired at night, and you're going to be able to lay down, put your head on the pillow, and go to sleep. Now, if you've got anxiety, it means, and you can hear my dog barking, growling behind me now. If you've got anxiety, it means that your stress triggers are not down regulated. You're getting a surge of cortisol and adrenaline. You may have high cortisol levels, and I know that they recommend to women who are sort of around the age 50, to not do running and stuff, because it does in that kind of cardio exercise increases your cortisol as well. So when we have a normal stress trigger, the cortisol rises, the adrenaline rises, and then the threat is over and it goes back down. But anxious people typically have this elevated levels of cortisol running through their body. And what that does is it prevents you being, so it uses up tryptophan for a start. It prevents the normal serotonin, tryptophan to melatonin kind of production, and you need the melatonin. Yeah, I often wake up feeling more anxious even if I think I've slept well. Exactly. Yeah. So perhaps Sheena, you might be going through the sleep cycle, and then that's extra surge in the morning, that cortisol awakening response is probably like being patted on top of an already elevated level of cortisol. So you're waking up with extra cortisol and feeling like anxious. A lot of people actually say that. They say, I say, when do you have anxiety? They say, I wake up with it. So that's actually really common. And it's uncomfortable because no one wants to wake up. You want to wake up feeling rested and well slept, not feeling anxious. Okay, so interestingly, even skipping 2 or 3 hours of sleep in a night will increase your cortisol levels for the following night. So you can see how you could get into like a negative pattern where you skip a bit of sleep, your cortisol goes up, you skip a bit more sleep, your cortisol goes up. So you're kind of deregulating, and then you get that wired feeling where you're probably exhausted, but you feel wired. So it's really hard to relax and actually go to sleep. So looking at a sleep debt, like you can imagine, if you're getting enough sleep and you're continuously then not getting enough sleep, if you compare the two, you've got like a sleep debt, like a deficit. And that is what is linked to diabetes. It's linked to increased risk of heart disease, increased obesity or weight gain. All this stuff's not good, obviously, but it also, that increased level of cortisol, it stuffs up your gut microbiome. Now, your gut, what is it, like 70% or something of serotonin's produced in the gut. The gut is really important. There's a gut-brain connection. So this gut microbiome is affecting our different hormones and neurotransmitters as well. So it's really important that we get that cortisol down. So that's the whole thing with anxiety, getting the cortisol down. Now, things that lower cortisol, in your body. And this is all management stuff that I do have a program which talks about, which we go through and switch off the sympathetic nervous system response, dysregulation, reset the nervous system, get everybody back to calm. But look, if you, in the meantime, getting that cortisol down, patting an animal does reduce cortisol. So if you can increase oxytocin, so that's the love hormone. If you can get that into your, like, holding a baby, gazing into someone's eyes, having a romantic experience, bonding with someone, even having social contact, like even just having like a calm conversation where you intimately, connect with another human being, gets the oxytocin increased. You can also do non-cardio exercises will reduce cortisol. So not by non-cardio, I mean like slow muscle stuff. That's why yoga works, because yoga is combining slow muscle stuff with breathing. So you can also reduce your cortisol levels by stimulating the vagus nerve. Now, stimulating the vagus nerve, you can do that by taking really deep belly breaths right into your stomach and then breathing out really slowly. So the easiest way to do that is to take a breath in where you count to 4 and then hold it for 6 and then breathing out like for 10 or 12, really restricting the airflow out. So that will stimulate your vagus nerve and reduce the cortisol levels, which is the goal. So yeah, we talk out the other thing that takes down your cortisol really quite dramatically, and they've actually done a lot of tests on this, is EFT. So EFT, emotional freedom techniques, is about tapping on the meridian energy points, which are also related to acupuncture and acupressure, and that takes cortisol levels down dramatically. It's also very effective to reduce, effects of PTSD and stuff like that. So when we have neuroendocrine dysregulation, it causes excess glucocorticoids, but cortisol. You end up with more sugar in your bloodstream. More insulin has to then come into your bloodstream because your blood sugar levels are up. That is then going to cause increased weight, diabetes risk. So one thing we can do about that side of things, the blood side of things, is to make sure that we're eating regular meals that are nutritious. There are foods that help with melatonin production simply because they have either the precursors or the necessary things there for those processes to happen. So people who are not sleeping typically will also display some levels of nutritional disruption as well, and that can be simply because when the gut microbiome is not right, you aren't digesting all your nutrients. You can't synthesize all the stuff that you need to synthesize in order to have a good nutritional status if your gut is not healthy. So it's a big circle it's just lots of big circles. Cortisol goes up, microbiome goes, gets destroyed, can't make the right things to be able to feel good. And then, because of that, you can't sleep, and then it just goes round and round. So it's like once you start, it's like a wheel, like you're turning a wheel nice and neatly, but once you kind of like get the death wobbles, it just wanders off. So it's about stopping, about resetting, and about getting back onto a cycle. So even if you're sleeping, if you're having sleep disruption, if you've got that wake up at 3 a.m. and you can't get back to sleep, all of that stuff is related to the nervous system, the gut, and the circadian rhythm, the sleep cycles. And I know, say, for example, my partner, he will get stressed with work, like he's got a business, he gets stressed, we all get stressed. He'll have a couple of drinks before bed because that knocks him out and he goes to sleep, but then he wakes up at 3 a.m. and he has to go and get in front of his computer and go to work. So his sleep cycle's kind of messed up. And the alcohol might help get him to sleep, but it's not a good strategy for, getting long-term health, like, as we said, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, being overweight, not good, attractive, appealing outcomes for anyone. So a couple of tips for getting some improvements. Obviously, resetting the central nervous system by doing the work is very important, and anyone interested in learning about that can send me a message or so forth. There's always information on the page anyway and in the groups. Tips for getting your body into a better circadian rhythm, reducing your cortisol, being able to downregulate the sympathetic nervous system and increase your ability to get to sleep is do your exercise in the morning. Make sure you do exercise at some, it's for your general health anyway, but doing stuff like yoga is really, really good. Exercise in the morning. It's been proven to help with PTSD. They actually have in PTSD clinics, they now incorporate yoga into that. So it is a very positive management strategy. Increase your oxytocin by just patting an animal, connecting with someone, have a warm bath, give yourself some, attention. So I did my practical I did for my nutrition, I did with a naturopath, and she used to give people with anxiety oats and passion flower tea. I've got like about 20 kilo bags of oats and passion flower at my house, and I haven't, and my intention was to bag it up and post it out. So if anyone wants some, just throw me a comment. So oats and passion flower tea is very good to have before bed when you want to go to sleep. Being able to stimulate that vagus nerve by doing the breathing. So in, hold, and then breathing out really slowly is really effective. The EFT, and I do teach that to my clients as well, EFT. So that's something you can do yourself. Now, one thing that is very commonly agreed on by sleep study people is that if you cannot sleep within 20 minutes, it's pointless to lay there and just wrestle with that for hours and hours. If you can't sleep, get out of bed, force yourself up, even if you're tired, force yourself out of bed. Get up, do something boring like folding, washing, or that kind of thing, and read a book. Now, there's been a study, and I can't quote it right now, but 6 minutes of reading a book reduces stress by about 65% or up to 65%. There's also a couple of nutritional things that I wanted to say. So walnuts contain tryptophan, that's the precursor to melatonin, which is required to downregulate and go to sleep. Almonds contain magnesium. They're also required to make this melatonin. Cheese has calcium, and it helps the brain use the tryptophan to make the melatonin. And there's lettuce also has something in it as well, which causes relaxation. So nibbling on walnuts, almonds, cheese, lettuce in the evenings instead of stuff that's sugary and is going to increase your blood sugar is very good idea. And when I was looking at nutritional status, B vitamins are also really important. However, don't ever take a B supplement before bed because it will actually prevent you from sleeping. Low levels of B6 have been linked to insomnia, anxiety, depression. So if you were taking a B6 supplement, you would do that in the morning. But you can also just, when we were talking about gut earlier, healing the gut, when we're consuming things like bone broth, that is really good for the gut. When we're having those prebiotics like fiber and stuff in plants. So when people historically weren't well, they would have like a chicken and vegetable soup. Now, that's not such a silly suggestion for people with anxiety and depression, is to have chicken and vegetable soup, because you're increasing your nutritional status, helping your gut, and like what a warm, comforting thing to have. And we're going into winter now, if you're watching in Australia, and that's just a really good thing to just include into your day, into your diet rather. And yeah, so if anyone's got any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. So just shoot me a message or an email or however you want to reach out to me, and I'd be more than delighted to hear from you. So I hope you've enjoyed listening to that talk about sleep and why we can't sleep, it really is, anxiety is really not a sleeping state. It's a wake, defend, protect, run, action, freeze. It's not, it's a think myself out of this problem or run myself or fight myself out of this problem state. It's not a, hey, everything's safe. It's time to relax. One thing that I was going to say as well is sometimes with not sleeping, if you've got a pen and a piece of paper, like I said before, I am tempted sometimes to grab my phone. Don't grab your phone. Grab a pen and piece of paper. Do a brain dump. What is it you're actually churning through your mind? What like, even if you just can't think of anything at all, just even saying, you know, even though I can't sleep, or I can't sleep, you know, at the moment, I, you know, am willing to relax. And Sheena would love some tea. That's it, you're on. I'll get you some tea, Sheena. And yeah, doing a brain dump, just journal, just get whatever flows out onto the page out there. And that for me sometimes helps. Making lists. So if you're a 3 a.m. wake upper, or you're I've got something on my mind, make a list. So then you've put it on the page. You know, you can relax now knowing that it's on the page for tomorrow. And there was one more thing I was going to say, and it's just left me. Oh, that's right. I was going to say that sometimes when you can just make a small chant for yourself, that's something that's positive, you know, and just repeat it to yourself, then that's helpful as well. So just repeating something, you know, like I've got a couple that I use, but just repetitive, short, nothing difficult, and just repeat them over and over again to yourself until your brain's kind of like so dizzy going around in circles that it just has no choice. Because letting your brain run wild is never going to be a great strategy. You've got to direct it. When it's running wild, redirect, get it on task. And so, yeah, and there's also those adult stories. They don't make any sense. You just, you know, I'm walking through a field, there's beautiful flowers, I feel the breeze on my skin, and even though I see the, you know, whatever, and it just takes you on a journey through meadows and walking on beaches and stuff like that. That can also be very trance-like, and having a trance state is towards sleep. So you're going down in the brain waves, they're slowing down. All right. Looking forward to seeing who votes for next week's live, and I will check out here. Have a beautiful day and a beautiful weekend. Thanks for watching.